Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin. I'm the author of Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit. I'm also the author of Twin Flame Romance, The Journey to Unconditional Love. All of my books are available in paperback, Kindle, and Audible books. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I do readings, 30, 60, and 90-minute readings, romance, twin flame, life, path, and purpose. You can book that at my website, michellefondinauthor.com. I also do on Kajabi, which is a closed site, Twin Flame Divine Feminine Boot Camps number 1 and number 2 on demand. I would say if you're having trouble navigating this twin flame journey, the boot camps are the way for you. You can register at the links below. This is Twin Flame Questions Answered, where I answer one of your twin flame questions either each week or every other week. At this point, it looks like it's happening each week. However, that could change since Tuesdays, when I post YouTube videos, is kind of like an up in the air day. It's like whatever I'm feeling the community needs at that time. Today's topic is the false twin flame. In reality, the question that came to me through the community forum on my YouTube page when I asked the question, what twin flame questions do you want answered, was, how do I know if my person is a false twin flame, or is it even necessary for me or anyone on this twin flame journey to have a false twin flame before coming to initial union with a twin flame? There are really two answers to this question, and I am going to try to give you a perspective from my own personal experience, having had a false twin flame, but not knowing that's what it actually was until I actually met my twin flame. And I'm also going to give some commentary as to the patterns that I have seen in the clients that I've coached since 2019 that are twin flames. So I just want to help you to recognize those patterns. The initial question is it necessary to have a false twin flame relationship prior to meeting a twin flame? And the answer is no, it's not necessary. Does it happen sometimes? Yeah, it happens sometimes. And I have noticed the different patterns between those that have had someone who's like a false twin flame and their twin flame trajectory versus someone who hasn't really had a false twin flame, but then had the spiritual awakening, had the twin flame, and their journey just looks really different. So first, let me just explain to you what a false twin flame is, because you might be wondering, what the heck is a false twin flame? A false twin flame at its initial stages looks very, very much like a soul connection, and oftentimes it is. It's usually a soulmate who comes in to help prepare us for what is to come with a twin flame, just depending on what our soul has agreed to. In the question, the person who asked the question asked about a karmic relationship. From what I have seen, usually it's not a karmic relationship that comes prior to a twin flame relationship if it is a false twin. A false twin often looks very much like a soul connection. It walks like a soul connection. It talks like a soul connection. There are several signs that are similar to a twin flame connection that make you think, oh, this is my twin flame. But there's always something that is slightly off, that doesn't make sense. It almost feels like there's an issue that is never, ever resolved, no matter how long you stay with that person. You could be with that person in a serious committed relationship for 1 year to 25 years, and it feels like this is my soul person, but there's always like 1 or 2 really unresolved issues that keep resurfacing, and they don't seem to evolve in any way, shape, or form. Almost like a really impossible passage to the end and to a peaceful relationship. It's just that turmoil just never ends. And it seems a little bit like a karmic connection in that you just seem to be going around in a circle with this person that is never ending. When I met my false twin flame, I did not know what twin flames were, but I thought this person was my ultimate soulmate. And so when I met this person, there was literally a white light surrounding us the day I met him. And we were sitting in a bar and we both felt this presence of this white light surrounding us. And we were like, whoa, what is this? And the relationship did progress in a very fast way. And it progressed in a way where we shared telepathy as well. And it wasn't like hardcore twin flame telepathy, but it was just like instantly I would think of him and he would call me, or I would call him and he was like, oh my God, I was literally dialing your number and you just called me. And there was just so much stuff that was reminiscent of a really strong soul connection that he hadn't really experienced before and I hadn't really experienced before. And we became very close very quickly. And we were just like two peas in a pod that could not be separated. I speak a lot about this relationship because that person was an alcoholic and drug addict who could not kick his addiction. Furthermore, I always knew inside of me, and I don't know why I knew this, I always knew inside of me that my soul person would not have children. I don't know why I knew that, but I just knew my soul person wouldn't have children when I met them. And this person had a small child when I met him, and he had sole custody of this child. So the child was 4 years old, completely adorable, who I fell in love with the first second that I met him. But it always kind of didn't feel right to me. I didn't feel like, oh, I need to be a family with this person and his child, even though I loved them both. I just knew my real soul person couldn't have children for some reason, or didn't have children up until the point that I met him. I knew this, and it was really weird because I didn't know why I couldn't shake that. I was like, okay, I shouldn't be prejudiced against this person because he has a child, but I kind of feel like my real soul connection doesn't have children. And it kept coming back at me time and again, and I would completely push it away. I would just push that thought away and say, that's a terrible thought. Why do you keep thinking that? That's just an awful thought. But I just knew that this person would not have a child, or any children for that matter. The second thing that I knew is that my person wouldn't have addictions. So I was really confused as to why I was so in love with this person, why it aligned so much that we were extremely soul connected, but he had this addiction he couldn't kick. And so I kind of thought in my own codependent way that it was my job to help him kick the addiction because we were soul connected. And so that was kind of going to be our way through to the end. And when it lasted 5 years and I tried every measure possible to get him to get sober and clean, and that nothing worked, and I felt like by year 5, we were back to ground zero, where it was just like the same crap was happening over and over and over again. Nothing was changing. Absolutely nothing was changing. And so it was then that I knew that there was just something inherently wrong with the connection that was not being repaired. It was not moving forward and it was not being repaired. The other sign of a false twin is that you can't really see yourself getting married to them. I mean, I thought that I was going to marry this person. I really wanted to marry this person because I really, really loved him. And I had those like emotional and spiritual connections to him and him to me. But it was kind of like the stopping point. If I would visualize a wedding, if I would visualize us being integrated as a family and being married together, I just couldn't visualize it. Not as clear as I had hoped. And it was always like this sticking point of like, why can't I visualize this? Why can't I really see this happening? And I always blamed on the addiction. I just thought, well, maybe I can't see it happening because I don't know what he's like sober and clean, so I can't really visualize that. But there were always things in my mind that were just a little bit off. And every time I would see him, I'd be 100% in love with him. I could say, honestly, with that person who was the false twin flame, now that I realized it, I was in love with him every time I saw him. And that lasted for 5.5 years, and that never went away. It wasn't like there was this ebb and flow where I felt like I hated the person or I didn't like him or whatever the case may be. No, there was this undying, unconditional love for him the entire time. But like I said, there were always these little things that were like completely off and that did not make sense. There were just things that did not add up. And so I feel like if you have somebody who is a false twin flame, or you have had somebody who is a false twin flame, you know that there's these slight little things that just do not add up, or you feel like you're stuck in a continual karmic cycle with them that has not changed, has not evolved. It just seems to stay flat. It seems to stay the same. The relationship is never in a growth period. It's almost like in a holding pattern. The arguments that you tend to have with this person tend to be the same arguments year after year, day after day, month after month, and nothing ever really seems to get resolved. It can improve a little bit, but then it goes back to ground zero, as I mentioned. So that is pretty typical of a false twin flame, where you don't see progression. You feel like this roundabout circle. And there are just little things that even though you have unconditional love for this person, you see the signs and synchronicities, you might share telepathy with them. It doesn't feel like a forward moving momentum. So that is a false twin flame. Now, I experienced more growth with my false twin flame soulmate connection because he was a soulmate, I'm certain of it. I experienced more growth with that relationship for myself than I ever experienced with any prior relationship to that point. So I learned a lot about how not to be codependent. Now, that work finished with my twin flame when I met him, but I had to work through so many things that had to do with codependency and having to fill a void by having a person fill that void, not having high self-esteem or high self-confidence, high self-worth. Like, I worked through so many things in that relationship because I had to, because I really loved him. And I thought, well, if I can heal these aspects of myself, then maybe he will be prompted then to heal his addictions, which he really didn't. I mean, he tried at various times, but it really wasn't heartfelt from his end. I believe he was doing it more for the relationship, which if you listen to the video that I posted with Jessica Cozine on Sunday, there's nothing you can do until that person is ready to heal from their own addictions. As an example here, when I met my twin flame divine masculine in September of 2018, it was a completely different ballgame. And here's why. There were 3 things that my twin flame said to me in our initial conversation that filled in the blanks of what was missing in the false twin relationship in the first conversation. So in the very first one-on-one personal conversation we had, my twin flame said 3 things. A, he was not married and he did not have kids. And that was the thing that was missing with the prior one. 2, he does not drink alcohol or do drugs or just like very rarely has the occasional beer. So no addictions there, no chemical addictions. Number 3, we talked about marriage. So it was like the 3 things that were majorly missing with the false twin flame. My twin flame, when I met him in our very first conversation, he confirmed all 3 things for me that were missing with the false twin flame. And it was kind of then where I was jolted into this, even though I didn't recognize him right away. Like, I didn't recognize my twin flame in that first conversation. He did, but I didn't. And I don't think he knew either, like, oh, this is my soul person. I don't think he knew that, but there was a recognition in his eyes. There was a recognition even in his voice. which I do talk about in my book. And I talk about it also in the early videos that I put out on twin flames in 2019. But for me, it was almost like God had put him in my life at that moment in time with that conversation where he was revealing those things to me in the very first conversation we had, so that I would recognize my person. Because again, I knew my true soul person would not have children. And I knew my true soul person would not have addictions. And I knew I would have to be able to visualize marriage with this person. So all three of those things happened. And when I came to the realization through angelic guidance that he is my person, it was like the vision of marriage to him was like complete and seamless, meaning I knew I could see myself married to him. I could see myself getting married to him. I could see myself married to him. There was no blockage there. It was almost like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, this makes sense. Like, I'm supposed to marry this person. Even though I didn't know him, it was almost like a sigh of relief, because for me, it just made sense. Whereas with the other person, the false twin flame, it had always been a struggle to even visualize that, because I felt deep inside of me like, oh my God, he has these addictions. I could never trust him. And he has all these problems with money because of the addictions. And so, oh my God, things are going to be so uneven. There was always this sense of discomfort surrounding visualizing married life with the false twin flame. But visualizing the marriage with my twin flame always felt very easy. I felt very much at peace. And the fact that he did not have kids, I was like, this is supposed to be my person. It was really weird. And the fact that he admitted to not drinking or doing drugs, like in our first conversation, which was really weird. And I think we had talked about making new friends and going to bars or something. And I just mentioned to him like, oh, it's really hard for me to meet friends because like I don't go to bars because I don't drink. And then he said, oh yeah, me too. Like I don't drink either. And so I was just like, whoa, okay, that's weird. So there will always be pieces of the puzzle for your twin flame when you meet your twin flame that fill in those pieces where the false twin flame could not fill in those pieces. And so that's how you can really tell the difference. And then if you really tune into your own energies and you are with a false twin flame, you will realize that there are just a few pieces that never feel quite right. Like everything else you have, like the signs and synchronicities, maybe the telepathy, the soul connection, the unconditional love, but there are just a few pieces in the puzzle that just don't fit, and they never fit no matter how long you stay with that person. It just never fits. So I want to let you know, like usually with patterns that I've seen with a trajectory of a twin flame relationship that starts with a false twin flame, and then like you meet the actual twin flame, and then someone who comes from like a karmic relationship moving into meeting a twin flame, with that comes a spiritual awakening and what their trajectory seems to be. So one thing that I've noticed with twin flames who have had a major relationship with a false twin flame prior to meeting their twin flame, what tends to happen is they've learned so many lessons on their own and in that relationship that when they meet their twin flame, it's almost like it's just finishing the lessons that they started with the false twin. And so what happens, generally speaking, and this is what I've seen time and again, and please, if this is your case, can you post it in the comments section below? But just in the patterns I've noticed with coaching clients, this is what I've noticed, that those that have had a false twin flame, when they meet their twin flame, they have a very brief period of honeymoon phase, elation phase. They're just like so in love and everything seems to be happening. And then they somehow get triggered and go into total separation. So this shortened duration of time could be 0 to 6 months. It usually is around that time. And then they have this explosion, this triggering explosion, and then boom, they go into total separation. And then they do their individual work in total separation until ultimately they come together in reunion. Those that do not have a false twin flame relationship before the twin flame relationship, they may have been in a karmic marriage, a karmic partnership prior to that. when they meet their twin flame, they have their spiritual awakening. And one thing that I've seen is that those people tend to have the on again, off again twin flame relationship. Meaning they come together, they separate, they come together, they separate, they come together, they separate. And the reason for that, I believe, is that all the lessons that the person who had the false twin flame was learning in the duration of that relationship, they still need to be learned, but they're learned with the twin flame, and they're learned with coming together, trigger, separating, working on their stuff, and then they need to come back together to trigger each other again. And so it almost serves as a false twin and twin at the exact same time, which for me, that makes it a lot more painful, because you feel like, oh, when reunion happens in that case, you feel like, oh, this is it. I'm going to be with my person. And then you guys get triggered again and you go again into separation. And this could happen for years. And I've seen this happen with twin flames for years, where they have this on again, off again, and they're never really truly in separation, because even in their periods of separation, they tend to communicate with each other a little bit. And so I believe that's a lot more drawn out and painful way to go through this journey. The way that I am going through it and have went through it is more of the total separation, and having had the false twin for 5.5 years, I feel like that prepared me better for my own twin flame journey. So I hope that helps you guys to understand the difference of a false twin versus the actual twin flame. And it'll help you like differentiate. And honestly, your journey is your journey. You can't handpick it. It just is what it is. It's what your soul chose to do before you came here. But sometimes it just helps to navigate it or understand it a little bit better. Because oftentimes when you see people on YouTube explain their journey or tell you things that say, this is like it is, if this doesn't happen, you're not a twin flame. And I think that's really false, because we're very different people. And so our journeys may look very different. There are some touch points of similarities, of course. But by you understanding the concept of false twin versus twin flame, you can really begin to understand a little bit more of where you enter into your twin flame journey and the trajectory of your journey as you're moving forward. So if you're still confused about your twin flame journey, I would say please join the boot camp below. It is super helpful. I have a client, his name is Omar. He is adorable. And he said, your boot camp number 1 is like a warm blanket that I wrap around me each day. And I really loved that, because this journey is hard. It's so difficult. And so that's why I designed the boot camps, to help you navigate this journey. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on that bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with other twin flames. And thank you so much for your support of this channel. You can buy a book or 2 or 3. You can pledge your support on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Michelle S. Fondin. And I will see you in the next video.